What if RFID actually worked the way warehouse teams expect it to? Sonaria delivers RFID without friction with simple, operator-friendly workflows that drive fast business results. Warehouse workers want clear and intuitive user interfaces. Sonaria delivers that with practical and direct solutions. Learn how warehouse executives are cutting manual work, trusting inventory again, and improving KPIs without burdening the floor at sonaria.com. That's SONARIA.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Audrey Djiya, and she is the CEO and co-founder at Handled. And we're going to talk a little bit about what Handled is all about. It's a new startup in the space and is helping 3PLs reduce some of that extra work in between systems and I guess handling some of that stuff. I'm guessing is where the name is coming from. So we're going to dive into that a little bit, find out why did Audrey decide to start this company and what they're focused on and how they're solving some of these administrative kind of issues and things that happen in between the various systems that a 3PL has. And we're going to learn all about that. So Audrey, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you for having me. Doing well.
It's great to get you on and definitely looking forward to diving into this. Been learning a little bit about what you're doing and getting to know you, I guess, over the last month or so here and very interesting stuff. So tell us a little bit about what is Handled and why did you start Handled?
Handled is an AI-powered operations platform that helps 3PLs and e-commerce brands eliminate all of the manual, tedious work that happens after a customer clicks buy or places an order. And so we do so by centralizing all post-purchase data into one system and automating the tasks that normally get done manually across disconnected tools. And essentially, our whole aim is to help operators quickly get the answers they need about what's going on across their shipments, orders, returns, and then also use our platform to kind of automate a lot of the routine, tedious, repetitive tasks that would typically require a ton of human intervention.
Why this problem? Why tackle this problem?
Yeah, so I grew up in a logistics household. So my parents,
What does that mean? Does that mean you grew up in a warehouse?
no, thankfully not. But actually, essentially, my garage was kind of like one. So
Oh yeah.
we used to, like, I would say every 3 years, like, build up, like, all the way to the top of our garage, like, so many items that my mom would find in houses
Mm.
that were empty that she was flipping, and then we'd ship them all across border to Cameroon. And so there's
Oh,
always like a
interesting.
container sitting in my driveway. So like the movement of goods was something that my family was involved in from a young age. My great grandma had one of the first like plantain export companies in Cameroon, and then my dad
Oh wow.
spent a lot of his career in supply chain. So he was everywhere from FedEx to Yellow when it was still
Mm.
around, to Air France Cargo before then finally running returns at QVC. So when I entered my career, was really interested in like the movement of goods and the ways it brings people together, brings cultures closer. And so after I did consulting for a bit, did a project for USPS, then worked as an operator in e-commerce at e-commerce brands like Peloton. And my co-founder Peter had a similar journey. He spent the past few years at Shopify. And then rambling, but our last business model before Handled, we were essentially helping brands sell internationally. So we were acting
Okay.
as the US arm of e-commerce brands. And through all these experiences together, we personally had to deal with the pain of what happens after a customer places an order, both like literally
Mm,
working for and running e-com brands, but then also on the tech side. And so we realized through all of our experiences that the post-purchase environment is really broken down. Like every e-commerce brand has like 15 different apps that they're using, like two for customer support,
mm,
three for returns. If they're selling multi-channel, it's horrible. They have to log into the WMSs of their 3PLs. And so no one actually knows what's going on. And then this leads to like very little visibility, inconsistent information, and then a lot of operational work happening like on paper, in Slack, on spreadsheets, or very manually. But I think the most important thing we learned is that most of the work post purchase actually lands on the 3PL, not the e commerce brands. So when a customer complains to a brand about their order or their return, the brand then turns around and asks the 3PL. And so we realized to fix like the chaos of post purchase and all these disconnected systems, we actually needed to solve the technology problem happening at the 3PL level first and then support their brands in return after.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, yeah. And you may be one of the few people that I've met that was like grown up wanting to work in this industry, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
definitely not sexy, like not the go to.
What? Oh, you don't see the shirt behind me here? Where else is there
Oh,
sexy? Come on,
sorry,
come on.
it is.
Uh, no, it's just very interesting because most people you find in the industry like they've just kind of like they found their way into the industry, like they just like fell in, but you actually kind of like grew up with your roots in it, which I think is really pretty incredible and amazing that you're like continuing on that legacy that your family has been working in the supply chain and logistics, which is amazing. So really interesting how you've kind of come to this problem set and now trying to solve this and address it. So you mentioned in there, these e-commerce brands, having like 15 different apps or softwares or whatever that they're working with. And I'm curious, like, why is that? Like, what do you think is like the root cause for just having so many systems all over the place and being essentially so like fragmented almost from like an information data kind of perspective?
Yeah, I would say like during the last tech boom, I guess like the era of like B2B SaaS, everyone wanted to be like really good at one thing. And that's how people
Mm,
had to build technology in the past. And so Shopify came around and they made the experience of actually making a purchase and checking out super seamless. And then rather than try to build out every single potential feature on earth themselves, they opened up this app store to allow people to build on apps that plug into Shopify. And out of that came a lot of like hyper focused apps. So this app is specifically for you to be able to have branded order tracking pages. This one is for you to be able to have a returns portal. This one is for this one's for that. And so as brands, so there's like a whole suite of Shopify apps, but then brands are also selling across multiple sales channels, and all those sales channels have different logins where the data lives. And then of course the 3PL has the WMS, which is hyper focused on helping the 3PL operate
mm,
versus communicate with their customers. And so what ends up happening is that the brand has like multiple disconnected systems. The 3PL also, in a way, has disconnected systems because they're maybe communicating on email and Slack, then fulfilling orders with the WMS. Not all WMSs even have an RMA or return section.
for sure.
Um, and then WMSs also stop tracking orders once they go out. So then they're logging into the carrier portals to figure out what's delivered when. So everyone is constantly just switching between systems to try to like piece together what's going on so that they can do something about it.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. And it's interesting to see like that shift, right? I think it's like it's very cool, right? That there was like kind of this hyper focus on solving these individual like problems, right? But now, like as you're saying here, and as you're trying to solve, right, it's created this other problem, right, where like all of this, like this is for just this specific thing, and this is for the other specific thing. And you mentioned earlier too that the 3PL is the one that's kind of like feeling the most pain from that, right? So so tell us a little bit about like what are some of those like examples of the pains that the 3PL is dealing with. And I think probably a lot of times, because the 3PL is like a service provider essentially, right? Like they're just feeling the pain and taking the pain because they're trying to like satisfy their client, the brand, right? So what are some of these examples that like really stuck out to you that you're like, hey, like we need to solve this somehow?
Definitely, it's like all the burden is on the 3PL, and they obviously want to provide the best customer experience. And so they're left with the grunt of the work. It's like if a customer's angry, even if it was out of the 3PL's control, it's almost like the brand is getting upset with the 3PL and they're held accountable for it. And so what ends up happening is 3PLs end up being like extremely reactive instead of proactive. And so they only know issues are happening when the brand reaches out to complain,
Mhm.
again, because they don't have access to all of the data. And so, one of our first use cases and biggest pain points that I felt, and I'll share others later, was everything related to returns.
Okay.
Um, and so, we lived this firsthand. So, during our last business model, we were working with a lot of brands outside of the US and essentially operating as like the US arm of their business. So, I'll give an example of one specific brand we worked with. They were selling on Amazon and Shopify. So they had returns coming in from Shopify, saw that in one system. Then they had returns coming in Amazon, different login. Every day, someone on their team would manually export the returns into a Google Sheet. If you wanted to know what was getting delivered back to the 3PL when, you had to click on the tracking link and track it manually. Inspecting the returns was a nightmare. At the 3PL level, a box would come, you'd have no idea what's inside of it because you don't have the data.
Yeah.
You want to let the brand know something's wrong. You send a text or a Slack message or an email. And so all of this data is kind of stored all over the place. And so couldn't answer like basic questions. What's coming back? Why? When will it arrive? What's good or bad about it? And then also couldn't restock returns fast enough. And so essentially the first use case for our automation platform was like automating returns end to end. So helping 3PLs standardize inspection through a mobile app, have clean structured data about what's coming when so that they can resource plan, and then automating follow-up tasks that happen after the return is delivered. So automatically updating inventory in the warehouse, updating refund or restock statuses, and then proactively alerting brands on if something went wrong. And so, holistically, when I think about our platform, oftentimes people get overwhelmed because there's a ton of potential. It's like, okay, you centralize all of my data and then I can automate anything. What does that actually look like in practice? I would say half of it is like getting answers to questions quickly and efficiently you might not have known before, like what returns are coming when, are we behind or on time on SLAs, how's carrier performance? Then the other half is automating like manual tasks. So whether it's responding to a customer email or
Mm.
filing a claim for a lost package.
Interesting. So how is it kind of, because it sounds like, the problem set is very like reactive, right? In the
Mhm.
moment in a sense, right? So how are you shifting it from being like a reactive type of step or thing? Like you even said like, oh, like the 3PL didn't even know something was coming or didn't even know there was an issue until like the brand told them there was an issue, right?
Mhm.
So how are you shifting that kind of to being more of like a proactive approach instead of like this reactive approach?
Essentially, it comes down to two things. The first is real-time visibility.
Hmm.
So we are like surfacing operational issues as they happen. So when you think about the main components of post-purchase of the work a 3PL is doing, it's related to orders, returns, or customer support. And so on the order front, we have a single view of every single shipment. So before, what was happening was a customer might complain by they click on their tracking link and they notice their orders delayed. They'll complain to the brand. The brand will then reach out to 3PL like, what's going on? Instead, today, 3PLs and their brands have like a single view of every single shipment. So if there are delays, exceptions, customs holds, they are all being surfaced in real time. And the same thing can apply to everything related to returns as well. If a return is delayed or the customer said there was a defect with the product, you're learning about these issues in real time and all the data is in one place. And then the other piece is like automated execution. So we go beyond just letting the 3PL know that an issue has happened, but we also can then take the next step automatically. So for example, if an order changes in Shopify and we check the WMS and it hasn't yet been updated because pick and pack has started, we can actually like break that order, automatically send a message to someone on the floor and like push an alert notification in the WMS so that if they try to move on to the next step, they're stopped from doing so. Or another example is if we notice a package is lost, not only are we flagging to the 3PL, but we're also automatically creating a reshipment order in the WMS so that before the customer even realizes or gets to complain that their package is lost, they already have a new one on the way because now we've equipped the 3PL and the brand to kind of problem solve before it becomes a major problem. I said two pieces, but one final piece that's not fully live yet, but that I'm really excited about for the future is actually using all this data to predict customer emotions. I think will be a huge unlock too. So
Predict customer
yeah,
emotions. Tell us more about
yes.
that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so 3PLs are dealing with angry brands that leave and
Mhm.
to them it seems random.
Mm.
But really what had happened was maybe months and months of emails that were not answered on time, inbounds that were behind on their
Okay.
SLAs. And then on a brand level, the same with their customers. If you notice the customer is constantly sending you angry emails or complaining about late packages, you can assume they're angry with you.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of able to take this data to also give out warnings to brands
Mm.
and 3PLs about on a customer experience front, not just operationally. Like, hey, this brand might be upset with you. Response times have been low. Your average SLA is like 95% on time, but for them it's 70. Do something about it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting, and I think that's such kind of like a hidden thing, right? Because it is like you said, like it's like these emails over time that a 3PL is dealing with like multiple different customers and clients, and they may not think that like okay, well this email from 3 months ago I didn't reply to like fast enough or something has any like
Yeah.
bearing on the relationship, but meanwhile like the brand is there like stewing, right? Like saying like, oh,
Yeah, like clenching
can't
their
believe it took them
fists.
like 3 days to reply to my email, right? And it's like, and you don't think about that, right? Because you got a million other things like happening. So having that kind of like pulse, almost like I guess client health in a sense, right? I think is a really interesting thing and a really interesting approach to take. I think that it can be really useful probably for a lot of 3PLs. So now tell us a little bit about, because you mentioned in the beginning there, like you're leveraging AI, right? And AI is
Mhm.
such a huge word now, right? Well, I guess it's an acronym technically, right? But such like
Yeah.
a huge buzz thing, right? And there's so many different layers and kind of components and types of AI that are out there. So break down like how specifically you're using AI and like where does the AI come into play here for people that are trying to navigate like this AI world now.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say it's like the driving engine behind our platform.
Okay.
So we use AI to build integrations really fast. And so what operationally as a team, we're a small team, but no one would feel it. None of our customers do because it's almost like we have an army of employees that are AI agents coding for us in the background, helping our team to build these workflows faster. But then also in the actual product, we've thought about describing this in different ways, but I think how another business or another way to describe the automation aspect of our work is like you're almost training like AI agents to do work for you, almost like digital employees.
Mm.
So our models are like very deterministic, which means we like tell the AI agent exactly what to do. So it's like if this happens, then X versus some of the other models where there might be hallucinations or glitches because they're kind of like going out on their own. But yeah, it's like how we're able to automate all of these manual tasks.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Very interesting there to hear that. And I'm curious, like, as you look at developing these kind of AI agents to be able to tackle these manual tasks, I mean, what are you seeing from the 3PL perspective, like as they bring in solutions like this, like how are they now like repurposing those people, like because obviously somebody's like doing that from a manual perspective, right? So how are
Mhm.
they now leveraging like that human capital or human labor in a different context or a different way?
Obviously, there's like a whole lot of talk like, "Oh, AI is coming for people's jobs," like, "How dare you? People are
Sure.
going to be out of jobs." But I will say all the 3PLs we work with, all of the employees are like, "Thank God. Now I don't have to do all of this, like, stupid work that
Yeah.
takes up so much of my time, and I can, like, focus on what matters." So, for people on the floor, that's, like, getting out orders and processing returns faster. For people in the back office, that's, like, getting invoices out faster, actually attending to customer needs, like
Mm.
responding to the super like tedious, like high importance tasks and letting us handle the rest. And so I'll give a specific case study, one 3PL we work with. One of their team members, our first automation we did was allowing them to buy international labels
Mm.
using our system. And so essentially the automation is if an international label comes through the WMS, purchase it outside of the WMS, and then upload that label into the WMS. And the reason is that their WMS couldn't fill out customs forms correctly.
Mm.
So what would end up happening was that every single time international orders went out, they'd get held at customs or returned to sender, and it was a mess. One of the employees told me he would spend for each international label, and this is a business that's doing, they're pretty small, but still 15,000 orders a month. And
Mhm.
international is like 10 to 15% of their business, 10 to 20 minutes on each label.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
So he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
clocking in overtime almost every week. Like customer complaints were falling through the cracks, but now he doesn't have to do any of that and he could just focus on his like actual job. He's actually meant to be focused on accounting full time. And now he can actually do
But he was
that.
spending all that extra time on labels. Yeah, interesting. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting point there. Like their WMS was not really capable of handling it or doing it the right way. So,
Hmm.
with handled in place, I mean, does the workforce feel I mean aside from like the relief of doing these manual tasks, right? I mean, like do they feel any difference in their workflow or like is there like do you interact as a user with handled or is it just like all happening behind the scenes?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
So there's a lot happening behind the scenes, like orders being edited, claims being filed, but there's also some engagement. So one of the automations we set up for a 3PL recently is related to inbounds. So brands upload POs to the WMS, but then they have like no idea what's coming when still. And so simple automation, like 3 days before an inbound arrives, like send a notification to this team member so they're prepared that in X days they need to receive it. Or maybe the morning of reminder, no, these number of inbounds are coming, make sure you allocate staff between these hours. Or and so it's also helping them plan their days more efficiently and also be like better at their jobs because they're receiving data upfront versus like having to scramble. Yeah, so it's saving them time and helping the 3PL scale without having to like hire like triple the amount of people and still have their back office operations work.
Yeah, interesting. And not I guess not causing them to have to like switch systems, right? Because you're kind of like filling in
Yeah.
those gaps. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say no one is ever 100% happy with their WMS, but people also typically just deal with the pain because they don't want to switch. Switching costs are really high.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like another added benefit of our solution is like we work with your existing systems and help them work better for you.
Hmm. Very interesting, and very interesting to hear how you're kind of tackling some of these like in between problems, almost like being the glue in between all these different systems and things that we talked about here. So I'm curious, you had your own 3PL for a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
you're researching all these 3PLs, working with these 3PLs. You worked for some larger companies too. I'm curious, like as you look towards the future, like what does the modern or future kind of 3PL, specifically looking at like fulfillment, look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much like robotics and automation. We were just at a trade show together a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago, like happening on the floor, and we want to bring that same like operational excellence to the back office. So that 3PLs are able to do what they do best, which is getting orders out. They don't get slowed down by everything else that happens in between. And so we hope to continue to support 3PLs and continue to support them with an even like broader range of operational questions and even wider set of automated tasks. Anywhere where 3PL is missing information or doing repetitive work or being reactive, we hope to fill in those gaps. And then even further, we really focus on 3PLs now, but there's also a huge opportunity to support e-commerce brands. And so we're starting out by supporting the e-commerce brands already at the 3PLs we work with. So when a 3PL onboards, their e-com brands already benefit from Handled. Some of them even log into our systems every day, but they have just as much, if not more, like manual operational headaches as well. And so we hope to expand our offerings to them, regardless of if it's through their 3PL or not.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, we look forward to the future of what you all are going to handle, I guess, and see how you continue to evolve. And it's great to learn more about what you're building here, Audrey, and happy that we were able to connect recently and have this discussion too as well. So very exciting what you're covering and being able to fill in kind of some of these gaps that we've seen kind of, I think, expand and grow over time as we see the more systems come into play and more apps and things like that being involved as well. So really a pleasure to talk to you today. And if people are interested in learning more about Handled or connecting with you to discuss it more, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so our website is itshandled.ai. Full website, itshandled.ai, including the its. Or connect with me on LinkedIn. Audrey Djiya, last name is DJIYA. Yeah, but excited to share, excited to keep working with 3PLs, and super grateful you gave me the opportunity to share more about our story.
Yeah, of course. And we will definitely put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well as in the show notes here. So, Audrey, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Enjoyed this episode? Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, and for more content from the New Warehouse, find us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Links to subscribe can be found in the show notes, and for everything The New Warehouse, head to thenewwarehouse.com.